Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Security Spotlight by Google. Your host today, myself, Marie Chidoli, and Roy D'Souza. We are both focused on Chronicle enablement within Google Cloud Security. And we have a special guest today from our very own Chronicle Professional Services, Darren Davis.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. Welcome, Darren. And thank you all for joining us today. This is the second episode, as Marie said. For those of you who missed the first one, a little refresher. The Security Spotlight is a recurring online event that gives you deep insights into the world of Google security operations. The format is a webcast with a featured topic every month and a Q&A opportunity direct with our professional services organization. The first episode was a big hit, left quite an impression, it seems. We have doubled the number of registrations today. Isn't that amazing, Marie?
It really is. So a big shout out to everyone that was able to register and or join. And for all of you that will hopefully watch this later on, we really do appreciate it a great deal. Your views will certainly help us keep this going. So thank you. A couple quick notes. So as you guys might see, we are recording this. You'll be able to access this later on the YouTube channel. Please ask any Q&A that may pop into your mind in the chat. We will do our very best to get to any questions later on during the Q&A session. And just a heads up, we're going to try to keep the questions as relevant to today's topic as possible. Anything else that may pop into your head, we can certainly address in the community later on. Otherwise, Darren, let's talk about you for a minute. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into security?
Yeah, all right. So like Marie said earlier, I'm a professional services solutions engineer for Chronicle Security. I deal primarily with SIM, which is what we're going to go over today. I've been in the security space for a little under 10 years now. I've been anywhere from a security analyst to a customer of Chronicle. I've myself have done deployments of Chronicle when it was first brought to my security team. And just from like a historical perspective, you know, I've started off very fortunate to go to a STEM high school where I did a lot of coding as a high schooler. And that started from there, went to creating my own company, building apps for people, Android applications for different people and for different things. And then it ultimately snowballed into a love for securing people's data and being able to help visualize and monitor those things as well, which ultimately led me to where I am today, talking to you all about the joys of Chronicle detections and risk scoring.
Awesome.
Love that, Darren. I mean, it's so interesting how so many of these career choices happen from, like, you know, when you were a child and you experience something, and then high school, which takes you through an experience. So great story to hear. Thank you so much again for your time. I'm sure the audience is waiting to hear from you and for you to share some of that experience and knowledge that you have. So let's not delay anymore. Why don't you give us an insight into what we're speaking today, and you know, go right ahead. The stage is all yours.
All right. So today I'm going to be talking about different ways that you can optimize your landscape of alerts, specifically using the risk scoring functionality of the outcome section within Chronicle's detection rules engine. We're going to go through a little bit about that just to set the stage. We're going to go through an example of that, and it wouldn't be a Google event if it wasn't a demo that could potentially go wrong. We'll see how everything goes. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have some Q&A. We'll be able to get to any of your questions that you may have. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the content. So I always want to start off with great detections. They provide great alerts. One of the things that I really think about when working with customers, when I was putting in Chronicle at the company that I worked for, is effective detection rules and effective alerting. The key to strong and effective security operations is to have contextual, accurate, and timely alerts given to your security operations center and ultimately into your SOAR or whatever your response platform may be. One of the good things and one of the joys of Chronicle is that we offer both pre-built and the ability to customize and create your own detection rule criteria to ensure that not only we're getting and we're firing off the correct alerts that is needed for in general, but also very specific to the use cases that you may have as maybe a company that's new to Chronicle. There are different types of rules. To give some background, there are single event rules, single event rules, and there are multi-event rules. Your single event rules are going to be primarily just seeing that someone logged into somewhere, or maybe that someone went to a website. These are really good for finding the one event or the singular event, and using exclusion lists can help reduce the amount of alerts that may pop up due to anything that may be noisy within your environment. I think a lot about vulnerability management scanners and how they can show up as potentially malicious activity because they're trying to brute force into machines to scan them. You also have your multi-event rules. Your multi-event rules can alert across events in time. It's the best way that I explain it. You're able to see things such as Darren or Roy or Marie logged in to their computer, but before they had a successful login to their computer, they stumbled with their passwords a couple of times. This also can benefit from the same level of exclusions that you can add via reference list, as well as it gives you the ability to further fine-tune down the alerts that you may see in your environment. These are really good starting points for getting good and effective detections. However, what I've come to find in my years of security is that a priority or severity-based scoring system is usually the most effective for quick, actionable response for a security operations center. And as a result, the way that we create detections and the way that we filter detections, we have to keep those in mind, and that feature needs to be available. Enter the risk score. So the risk score allows for any content creators within your security environment that creates detection rules or creates telemetry and logic to alert against can benefit from creating a rule scoring or using a scoring system of any kind within Chronicle detection. You can utilize mathematical criteria within both single and multi-event rules. You're able to utilize dynamic scoring that could very well align with security-based policies or guidelines that is within your own security program. And in my opinion, I think starting off with great policy and great guidelines can help fuel good security, so long as we're always making sure that we're going back and we're actively tuning those policies and those guidelines to meet the landscape and the malicious landscape that we have to deal with. The biggest thing that I've seen as a benefit to risk scoring is the ability to take multiple rules that have been created for very specific use cases and be able to combine them back into one rule. And rather than dealing with alert fatigue in a lot of cases for SOCs, you're able to tackle the alerts that are coming in a scored and thresholded way, which allows for the most important alerts to be carried out and to be utilized as quickly as possible. And for things that may be potentially false positives, or maybe things that are just as impactful, but because the machines or maybe the user accounts that are behind those alerts are very well restricted, they don't require the same level or the same SLA or the same time to respond. So let's see an example of this. So let's all say hi to the FUBAR security company. this company needs to alert on employees that are falling victim to phishing campaigns. We have 2 security engineers tasked to create effective logical detection rules, Roy D. and Marie C. So the task is to write detections to identify employees that are going to suspicious websites. These could be credential harvesting sites as an example. And also to look for signs of account compromise as a result. Here are the examples of what those rules could look like. So you can see on the left, Roy created a detection rule that looks for outbound connections to malicious domains. We're working with Cisco DNS, Cisco Umbrella, and we're looking for if the user has the title of CEO, COO, or CMO, because we had information to suggest that our executive board or our executive team is being attacked a little bit more than the rest of our company and the rest of our organization. So we want to make sure that we're actually excluding them because it would produce a large amount of noise within our environment. That's the goal that we're going for. And then on the right side, we see that Marie added a little bit more context to this role, that we're looking for a status update for Proofpoint. Essentially, what we're checking to see is if Proofpoint discovered that one of these individuals is a victim of a phishing campaign. And then we want to see if we had any malicious DNS connections afterwards, which is evident by at the bottom on the right side, the timestamp of the first event is happening before the timestamp of the second event. And we're also still excluding the COO, the COO, and the CMO because we know that that's going to generate a lot of noise regardless. These are very great rules to start off with. However, just like we had to exclude the members of the executive team, we could still grab and get a lot of noise as a result. And being able to provide context or a little bit more context to the rules allows for us to put into context and to prioritize the different the different alerts that we see. So as you can see now with the outcomes section, the risk score, we're starting off with 20. 20 is chosen because that is the defaulted minimum risk score that our company's guidelines stipulate. So we're starting with 20. Then we're saying that if the CEO is a part of this role, we're going to assign 50 to it. If the COO is in this alert, we're going to assign 30 to that. If the CMO is assigned to this role because the CMO is taking on dual responsibilities at this fictitious company, we're going to say 28, but not 30, because it's not as detrimental to the company from the CMO's perspective versus the COO. However, we know that the vice president of engineering is still very technical in their role, and they may have access to a lot of confidential information, a lot of proprietary information, and potentially a lot of customer information, depending on the systems and applications that we know that they have access to. So in that case, we said that if we see the vice president of engineering in this this campaign, then we're going to add 75 to it, because that is an all hands on deck. If the vice president has been pwned, the vice president of engineering has been compromised, that is very bad, and potential trade secrets could be lost and exfiltrated as a result. And then the greatest thing about this is that risk scoring turns these 4 rules, where we have one specifically for execs, one specifically for marketing, one specifically for the plant and for sales, into one rule, which is just phishing compromise.
Thank you, Darren. Just a quick clarification. So I think we got a question here from Rocky, who asks why the target URL line was commented out in the example before. So just maybe we clarify why
Yes.
that was the case.
Yeah, I'll go back a little bit just to show those 2 examples. So in this case, the reason why that the target URL is commented out is because this is a very new rule that we've seen. This is a very new rule that the company is using, and the company doesn't have a reference list yet called malicious URLs. So we're not necessarily going to be utilizing that. However, the more alerts that we see, the more that the SOAR is going to respond against these and properly and effectively categorize them. Something like that will be removed from the comment will be removed from the rule, and that's something that can be used. However, in this case, we're able to add that same type of logic to the detection, the actual risk scoring, and we're able to add more levels of risk into the score based off of the categories of the malicious URLs. So rather than creating our own temporary reference list to categorize or to effectively state, yes, these are malicious rules, we're able to now leverage maybe one of our IOC feeds, our indicator of compromise feeds. Maybe we have a subscription to Mandiant Threat Intelligence. Maybe we are an Enterprise Plus customer of Chronicle, and we have applied threat intelligence as a result of that. We're able to utilize those features of Chronicle, which serve to make all of the information accessible in real time without much manual manipulation, much manual modification, and effectively alert on that. So we could effectively tune the risk scoring to be a little less severe for the title and make it more severe for the types of URL categories that Cisco Umbrella is giving us. So rather than just grabbing the URL or the domain that's in the Cisco Umbrella logs, we're grabbing the category, and we're saying if the risk score, if the category of the DNS connection is malicious, that's a 45 or a 55. However, if it's gambling, that may not be malicious, but that may be against policy, which allows us to then further differentiate between effective rules to protect a company, as well as effective rules to adhere to policy that may be implemented within the company.
Great. Thank you, Darren. Yeah, I think that should have answered the question, but let's move on. I think it's demo time.
Yep, it's demo time. So let's go ahead and add screen to the stage. So what I have here is a brute force rule. I was initially writing this rule to see if we could find any potential password spray or brute force against a single user within the environment. So what I've decided is let's just start off very generic. Let's go ahead and see what information we're getting. And we may want to look for, instead of brute force, we want to see if there are special privileges happening within our environment. Maybe we want to see if there are people that are trying to log in that, rather than looking for password spraying, we're looking for actual users that are logging into the environment that are having their privileges escalated. So there are many different ways that we can go about this. But what I'm going to do is just show off how we can start providing some risk scoring to the information that we see here. So in this rule, I'm getting a Windows log from one of my colleagues here. So what I can do is, on the right side here, I can find the username that's associated with this. So we have WinD egal. I can go ahead and grab this, scroll to the very top, and copy this UDM event. And since we already know that I'm grabbing the user and I'm adding that to the target user ID field, I can then start modifying this risk score. So what I can say is that if the risk score is equal to 10 plus max because we're trying to take the largest value that comes out of all of our logic. If user equals when the egal, which means that if my colleague David is logging in, I don't like that. So I'm going to say that the risk score is 80. If it's not David that's logging in, I'm going to have it to be 0. Plus, and then this is where we can go back to our logic and see if we have in here, I'll click down here, we have the egal, then $sign is being used as well here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Plus, if the user is actually the service account, then I'm going to say that it's 85, or else it's 0. With this, I can go ahead and save this rule, and then I can go ahead and run another test rule. Now we can see that we're getting detections again. You can go ahead, click on one of these. And we're still getting good information here. Now, what will show up if I were to jump very quickly to some other examples that we have in this this demo environment is that if I go to my alerts, what you'll see is that there are some other rules that are utilizing the risk score. So what would happen is we would see if I were to enable that rule and set it to alert that when David is using his service account, or using the computer account rather, to perform some actions, then there will be a risk score here that will say 85, and that will probably show up as a high risk or a critical risk. This is all depending on how you have this risk scoring thresholding set up. What you have the ability now to do is within your SIM settings, you have the ability to choose your risk score weighting and different things like that for detections. So we can say, rather than me writing that the risk score is plus 10, I can add that here and save it. And that will now automatically create a risk score of 10, even if I'm not using the risk score within my roles at the time, which still allows us to have some type of semblance of control over how risky the environment can be.
Cool. Hey, Darren, this might be an interesting time to jump in with a quick question. And let me know if we should hold off on asking until you've completed a bit of this demo. But in chat, I noticed we had a pretty good question regarding combining different sources to check on future events. So we wanted to know if we can save a risk score in Chronicle to combine from different sources to check on future events. Is that something that you've thought of previously?
That's a good question. Trying to see if I can find the question anywhere. I see it here. So the way that we can actually do this, and thanks, Srinivas. Hopefully, I'm not butchering your name there. Can we save risk score in Chronicle to combine from different sources to check with future events? There are some pretty slick ways that we can actually do those types of things. I'm not going to go too much into the territory of potentially next month's topic, but you do have the ability within Chronicle, if you have the SOAR as well, that you're able to look at the risk score of different events here. You can see this risk score says -1, but we may have one here that may have a higher risk score. And now within the SOAR, you have the ability to take multiple events based off of multiple alerts that have been found in Chronicle Sim. And then in Chronicle SOAR, you have the ability to then take the risk score out of that information, combine them together, and then from there make adequate decisions on how to modify and upgrade your detection rules to see, okay, we're now seeing that the chief marketing officer is being spearfished because they said in a Google Events keynote that they really love oranges. So now they're getting spearfishing for orange distributors. They click on one. You have the ability now to take those pieces of information, add that to a rule to say like, okay, the CMO is being fished, and then they click on links where you can perform a regular expression capture of orange somewhere in there because they really like oranges. Those are very much things that you can do. So hopefully I did answer the question or provided context to the question, but the answer is you do have the ability within the source side to combine some of those risk scores to then make automated decisions on the continuous what am I trying to say? In the incident response lifecycle, the continuous improvement of your security operations.
Okay, so sorry for jumping in again, but it sounds like we're really learning how to streamline our processes here. Not only can we take single event rules and work through more complex multi-event rules, but now we can incorporate risk scoring and combine some of what we know of with past events related to risk scoring and make our multi-event rules even more efficient. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. So say if we wanted to take the FUBAR security a step further, I can go ahead and look for Roy's rule. So as you can see here, is I said that I'm the worst offender at this company. So if you see me clicking on something or going to a malicious URL, it's 1,000. But let's say we're using Cisco in this case. We can say that if e.network.bytes sent is greater than, let's say, 1,000, or let's do 1,024 to say that that's a megabyte. Then we can say, oh, that's really bad. Maybe we have some data exfiltration coming through. Let's add that as well. So we're going past the realms of just simple, okay, it's the CEO. No, it's not only the vice president has access to sensitive data, but now we have potential evidence that there's exfiltration happening with this connection that we're seeing. So that doesn't even have to be at that point in time a third event that you're seeing in a multi-event rule. You have the ability now to infer what's happening in your environment by using the risk score to provide more context clues.
Cool. I think that's pretty helpful. Sorry, did I interrupt in the middle of your demo? Were we still pushing forward with that?
Not at all. My demo was actually very succinct based off of the timing. So we have a good amount of time to go to some questions. Nice. We have a good amount of time to talk about anything next.
Okay, great. We're going to change up the order of what we initially planned a bit. Well, actually, no. Let's do this. I am going to quickly plug the community a bit and just chat about that. And then we're going to jump into some Q&A. Listen, we want to thank everyone again for joining today. the Google Cloud community is what makes all of this possible. So if any of you have not yet registered, these are some of the benefits that you can gain from the community. There's a QR code available in case you want easy access to registering, but there's a ton of discussion where if there are any questions we don't get to today, or if they're not directly relevant to this topic, then we can have you guys post in the community and we'll make sure that someone addresses those there. There's also the main events page where you'll find all Google Cloud events, community events, and there's a bunch of information on that. We also have a QR code here for our next month's episode of the Security Spotlight. We're super excited to present to you a little bit more on SOAR, and we'll have Rob Becker, who leads our professional services organization for Chronicle. He's actually going to be the one presenting, so it'll be a really great time to pick his brain in the live Q&A session afterwards. Otherwise, you guys will see some information on this. We love feedback. There is a link. It's the second URL posted here. We'll try to get that posted in the comments as well, but that is just so you guys can leave us some feedback on maybe what you love or how we can improve in the future. Cool. That's what I wanted to plug. Now we can talk a little bit about what questions you may have and see what kind of answers we can pull from Darren.
Maybe Darren and Marie, we probably should address the ones in the chat, because I think there's some that directly kind of came from the presentation, Darren. So maybe we address these first. I know we do have some pre-submitted questions, so we could maybe go towards those later. But we have one here which asks, can the rules used in other SIEMs be used here, or do we need to make new rules, like Splunk rules?
So that's a good question, and thanks for the question. So the short answer and the long answer is that the rules will have to be translated is the best term to utilize. The rules will have to be translated into Chronicle's detection rule language, which is called YARA. YARA stands for yet another ridiculous acronym. And that is the language that we use for creating our detection rules. Now, there is a lot of parity that we have between, say, Splunk, QRadar, ArcSight types of rule telemetry. There are some things that we do that very, very much streamlines the rule writing process and the rule quota and utilization process as well. However, to answer your question, you will have to translate those rules if they're coming from Splunk or another SIM to YARA-L, which is the Chronicle rule language.
Got it. I hope that answered your question. And there's another one which maybe we could take, but Darren, you said you don't want to give too much away from our next session, so it's about SOAR. But there's a question from Steph on where in the SOAR would this contextual data be stored? Would you keep it as context within a block or a set of blocks?
That's a good question, and definitely that's something that Rob can talk a little bit more to as he goes through his subject. Also, if you decide to hammer him with a bunch of questions as well. The answer to that question is that all of the information that you see from the alerts in IOC's pane within Chronicle SIM is available as a piece of a detection alert within Chronicle SOAR. So with that in mind, you can keep that within a block. That comes in the kind of like the meta information of the rule as well. And that's something that you can utilize, and modify at will, especially in cases where you're seeing that it's not just the vice president of engineering, but the entire engineering department is being attacked, or they're going to malicious, and we're seeing a lot of data exfiltration there. So you have the ability also to manipulate in the SOAR. There's another question here that's kind of in tandem with that. The question is saying that if Chronicle alone can act as an RBA or risk-based alerting, and whether or not we need SOAR. So I always want to say that having a SecOps platform is the best way to go. SIM, SOAR, and validation are always the three pieces that I would say that every company should have within their tool belt of security tools and applications. The SIM does a really good job at taking care of the first hand of determining what could be bad and assigning risk to that and categorizing risk to that. And in a lot of cases with Chronicle, you have the ability to also look at the risk analytics as well, as it pertains to endpoints and it pertains to users. So there is a lot that you can do from risk-based alerting that you can perform in Chronicle, as well as you have the ability to forgo that if you decide to take a little more of a rudimentary, maybe you're not at that level of your security operations just yet, so you don't have to implement risk scoring just yet. You have full customability of the rules and how you alert. However, I truly believe that that's not complete unless you have the SOAR to be able to provide even more context, to look back at previous alerts, previous events that have been triaged, as well as have the ability to go in and make certain adjustments or changes in the attempt to resolving a potential event or incident. So to put a cap on the risk-based alerting capabilities that Chronicle SIM has, Chronicle SOAR is 100% a good piece to have.
Thanks. And I think that we may have glazed over. We have folks tuning in from all different skill levels, and can we quickly cover the difference between a detection versus an alert? It was a good base question, Rocky. Thank you.
Yes. So in Chronicle, there is a difference between the two. A detection is events that meet a criteria to potentially alert. In Chronicle, you have the ability to set all detection rules as alerting if you would like or not. So just because you have a detection or there is a detection that's within Chronicle SIM does not mean that it is alerting in another platform or it's not sending out that alert to the security team. An alert is a detection that has been sent to the reporting tool, whether it be the SOAR or another incident response tool, and has created an actual alert, a detection event to then triage. So detections are the events themselves that meet the criteria. The alert is the case that's been created from those events that have met the detection criteria.
Cool. I think that's going to help clarify for a few folks. Darren, how are you feeling? Does it feel like old times when we're back helping customers as a duo, right?
Yep. Yeah, feels like old times. Yep.
Cool. So there's another good question in here about sample code and if we have the ability to share any of that. I know we have access to some general rules that folks can use. Do we have a repository available that folks can access some sample code?
Yes, we do. If you go to github.com/Chronicle, you will see a full open source and open to the public repository of a lot of different features and solutions that we have for different use cases. Within our detection rules, we have a lot of different use cases there as well that you're able to go into and utilize a lot of different categories. And in those categories, we explore different ways of alerting, creating detection rules. And they're really good. I always call them the good first start because you may start with a generic rule and then put your additional logic and telemetry needs within those detection rules. So you will see examples of risk scoring within those detection rules. You will also see that we have a community sourced analytics detection rules as well there. So there are some community rules that have been created by different partners that we have within our Google community.
Nice. Thank you. And it looks like we have that link for GitHub in the comments as well. So it should be easy access there. Ranjit, we do have an implementation guide for Chronicle available through the community. I would have to dig through and find the URL for that, but it is available in the documentation that we have out there in the community. Just another great benefit of being a member there. Let's see. Oh, good question. Chronicle, is it cloud agnostic?
Yes, that's correct. Chronicle is cloud agnostic. There are a lot of features that is with the Chronicle SecOps deployment that require a GCP account, requires a GCP project involved. However, I like to say that we will take any log that you would like to send to Chronicle, and we will send those alerts anywhere that you need them to go. Whether it's AWS, Azure in terms of infrastructural security logs, whether it's Oracle-based logs, or Cisco-based logs, NetScout-based logs, it doesn't really matter. We will take all your logs. We will help you make sense of them and make use of them, and make them accessible for your security team to be able to create an effective security operations center.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much. I think these were great questions. And thank you so much for the participation. I think that covered most of the pre-submitted ones as well, because they kind of were in the same vein. But I think if you don't have any more, that seems to be what we had in store for everyone today. Darren and Marie.
Yeah, Darren, thank you so much for diving into how we can, optimize our alerts and incorporate some risk scoring there. It was a lot of wonderful information. We have the QR code up again for those of you that would like to register for next month's session, our third episode of Security Spotlight. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to review risk scoring and how we can incorporate that into our daily practices to hopefully simplify our operational practices moving forward. Otherwise, we thank all of you for tuning in, and we hope to see you next month. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.